Hello and welcome back. This is Michael Williams, the founder of the Start Speaking Training Center, and we are working through this brand new program that I've just released called the Power Coach Approach, and that is how you can become your own personal speaking coach. And you can coach yourself in anything else too, but we're talking about how to become an excellent speaker, and you can certainly apply this information to other areas, such as if you are an anxious person, or you have public anxiety, or you just want to become a better speaker, or if you're a stutterer or a stammerer, you can use this program to help you there. Today, we are going to be looking at control. Now, not so much self-control, but we're going to be talking about control and how that directly impacts your ability to, and your confidence and your esteem, and your ability to speak fluently. Okay, so let's talk about control, and what do I mean by control? Well, let's just look at this. The more control you have over your situation and over yourself, the better you feel about yourself, the better you feel about life. And the better you feel about life, chances are it's because you have greater control over your life. So people who have less control, something called locus of control, people who have less control over their time and their job and their money don't feel as good often as people who have more control over their time and their job and what they do. So even in a company where you have someone who's micromanaged, that's why many people don't like to be micromanaged, because they don't have as much control over their tasks, over their time, over their functionality, over their creativity. They're being controlled, so they don't feel real good about their job, about what they're doing, and sometimes it impacts their self-esteem and their life in general. The greater control that they are given, and certainly one has to be responsible, but the greater control that they're given, often the better they feel about their job and about themselves and so forth. Well, it's the same here with speaking. It's the same here. That the more control you feel like you have over your speaking situations, that is, when you have to speak, where you have to speak, and what you have to say, the more control you feel you have over that, the more confident you are, the calmer you are, the more comfortable you are, right? The more courageous you become, because you feel like you have control over it. Now, as you progress through this program, you'll probably need to have less control, because you'll be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want. Now, I'm not saying you should say whatever you want, wherever you want, but certainly you'll be able to, right? So you'll need to have less control. But as you're beginning this approach, you'll probably need to have a great sense of control over your speaking situations. Okay, Michael, what does that mean? Control over my speaking situations. Well, let me give you an example. When I first graduated college many years ago, one of the first jobs I got, and I stuttered at that time. I mean, I was able to speak and to communicate, but I would stammer, and I felt the headaches and so forth. One of the first jobs I got, as you may have heard before, was working on the telephone. And I hated talking on the telephone, but it was the best job I could get at that time. So here I am, I have to work on the telephone. Well, I was frightened, but I was pretty self-confident, and I figured I was going to figure out a way to do it or not, right? So I had to go through a training program. Oh boy, I hate training programs. I had to go in there, and we had to practice saying certain things on the phone with people watching us and recording us. It was an absolute nightmare. It was a nightmare. But I did it, and here's how I did it. One of the things I did to relieve the pressure is I told the instructor right off the bat, sometimes I stutter. Sometimes I stutter. Now notice, I didn't say I'm a stutterer. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the program. Let me mention it here. Do not identify yourself as a stutterer or a stammerer. Okay? I know maybe you've been taught to do that, to accept the fact that you stutter. And I'm all for accepting the fact that right now you stutter sometimes, or even if you stutter all the time, that's not going to be the case in the very near future. But it's nothing wrong with accepting the fact that you do stutter, but I don't want you to identify yourself as a stutterer. See, there's a difference between the act and the behavior of stuttering or stammering and being a stutterer or stammerer. That is, identifying yourself as a stutterer or stammerer, as taking on the behavior as who you are. You are not a stutterer or stammerer. So your potential is to be an excellent speaker. It just so happens that you stutter and stammer now, perhaps, or you have speaking anxiety. Even if it is genetic, you still don't have to exhibit the behaviors. So don't identify yourself as a stutterer. If you need to, and sometimes I encourage you to, you may say, sometimes I stutter or stammer, and you may never do it. In that situation, you may not do it, or you might. But when you identify and say, hey, sometimes I stutter or I stammer, so if I get stuck a little bit, that's the reason why, you skip over me, or I'll work through it, or something like that. It kind of relieves the pressure, right? But that's different than saying, I'm a stutterer. Because then, if you do that, then you continue to take that identity with you for the indefinite future. I'm a stutterer, I'm a stutterer. No, those are negative affirmations. You're an excellent speaker or you're becoming an excellent speaker who sometimes stutters. Everyone stutters sometimes, right? We may stutter a little more, but we're becoming an excellent speaker. That's going away. So, back to the control factor. Is that